come take a seat on the beat. We gather where laughter meets. Every Tuesday's a trip. Come share your flair. In this warm embrace, there's love everywhere. Talk it out, all vibes alright. Nobody's wrong in our light tonight. So join us in this cozy space. We're talking it out, with love we embrace. No topics too bold, no dreams out of reach. Together we rise, that's the joy that we teach. From stories of pride to journeys of heart, we celebrate life, each unique part. A safe haven here, where spirits soar free. Together we rise, that's the joy that we teach. Let the colors shine bright in the warmth of the night. So join us in this cozy space. We're talking it out, with love we embrace. No topics too bold, no dreams out of reach. Together we rise, that's the joy that we teach. Let the colors shine bright in the warmth of the night. So join us in this cozy space. We're talking it out, with love we embrace. No topics too bold, no dreams out of reach. Together we rise, that's the joy that we teach. With each word we share, we bring the light. Joy the talk show, let your heart take flight.
Welcome to another episode of the SayCo Show. Those of you that are in the chat room on the app right now, let me know the sound quality. Tonight, I'm coming to you from Goodlettsville, my home, and I am talking into my vintage Electro Voice 630 microphone. So if someone can type in and let me know how the volume sounds, I would appreciate that. Guys, tonight we are going to be talking about kind of an uncomfortable topic. We're talking about death because we're asking the question, do you think heaven is real? Thanks for letting me know that, guys. So tonight we're talking about, is it real? And there's no way any of us can prove how we feel about what we think heaven is, right? Because it is a one-way ticket. A lot of people, including one of my grandmothers, did say that they went to a bright light. Now, my grandmother, other people have seen people waiting for them there, but my grandmother stated that she felt a wonderful sensation of warmth and that everything was okay. And then it felt like she was floating and going towards this grand light. And then before she knew it, she was back in her body. Now, little did she know, she was going through meningitis of the brain. And she was in the hospital dealing with all this and kind of coded out. And all the nurses and doctors were running into the room and they brought her back. And when she was better and fought through and got out of the hospital, she said, I want to tell you all something. You might not believe me, but I felt like I left my body. And a lot of people say this. A lot of people say, what was that? I felt like I went away or I was released from my physical body. We're talking about heaven tonight, so therefore we're kind of talking about death too. So if you have anything at all that you want to talk about, whether it's your opinion on death or if heaven is real, we are live right now on Podbean. Now, even though the show might be titled 306, that was last week. This is show 307. And if you want to call in with a voicemail or a text with your ideas, the number for our studio is 615-805-4363. And if you are in the chat box right now on Podbean, we will ask you to post or hit that button if you want to give your opinion in just a bit about what you think heaven is. Now, I will be honest, guys, before we take a deep dive into this, I always try to be as honest as possible. I was going with a completely different show tonight. But the comment kind of came up. The topic came up because we have someone that's going through end of life days, end of life choices, end of life ideas. And it's just, a really close friend that we've known for a little over 3 years. And I'm not going to give up too much information, but she's kind of stated that she's ready to go. So the doctors, nurses, family came into her home. Everything was stated, and she was moved into hospice care yesterday morning. And so my spouse went and talked with her today, and it was very, very calm, clean conversation about choices. I bring this up often because I have to speak my truth as a, testicular cancer survivor of 3 years. When someone says, it's just like a movie, y'all. I'm serious, and I've said this before. When someone says, sit down, I got to tell you something. It's cancer, and you've got it, and it's in your body right now. You won't understand unless that happens to you, which I hope it doesn't. But when that is told to you, I feel like it was kind of a line in the sand. You're either going to say, I'm going to fight this and I'll do everything y'all tell me to do, or you're basically just going to kind of give up. But I wouldn't say my friend today is giving up. I know that some people would say, why did she choose to stop taking medications? And why did she choose this, this, and this? And the point is this. It is her journey. It's her life. It's her body. And it's her choice. If she feels like this is time at 88 years old to say, I'd like to cross over, we have to respect that. Do we want her to go? No. She's a feisty, wonderful friend. But on the other hand, you kind of have to respect the fact that she's made a decision that is best for her. Do y'all remember a few years back, there was a little girl that said she died, and the doctor said that she was clinically dead. And when she came back, she had this whole story like thousands and thousands of other people that have said, look, while you were working on me, or when I collapsed, or while I was in the hospital, these people state that they left their bodies, that they could float in the room. They looked down and saw the shell of their body. And then they decided, yeah, this feels so good. I do want to leave and go away. And a lot of them said they saw loved ones. And it was just so comforting that they wanted to stay. I'd love to hear your reactions. Those of you that are in the live chat room right now, I'd love to know your reactions on death and if you think heaven is real. And of course, if you want to say something about anything that's happened in your life, please let me know. I often talk about the testicular cancer thing because it's kind of like my most modern, current issue that I went through as far as life and death. Thank God they just cut it out of me. And the cancer's been gone ever since then, 3 years, thank goodness. But when I had a car wreck in New Year's Eve in 2000, I remember rolling down this freeway exit, and I remember the song that was playing on the tape in my car. And while I was rolling down and flipping, I was saying, okay, the next flip, I will probably snap my neck and be killed. And the weirdest thing happened, and it was probably a nanosecond. I kind of had regret that I hadn't apologized to some people or that I was ugly to some people. So, of course, I made it miraculously through the car accident. And after I was home resting, I started making a list of people that either had done me wrong or I had done them wrong. And some people asked for forgiveness or please, accept my apology, and I said no, or vice versa. They asked me to forgive them and I had to hang up or whatever. And I made a list of a good dozen people, and I called them and said, look, I was just in a car accident. I don't know how I got it out of the car safely, but I just want to let you know that whatever beef we had, I don't want to leave this planet with any regrets or people thinking ill of me. And so I accept your apology, or will you forgive me? And I would say about half the people on the list were like, okay, I forgive you. And some others were like, thank you. I kind of already dismissed this whole thing, but thanks for letting me apologize again and that you're accepting my apology, and let's move on. So it was quite healing for me, actually. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't a very nice person back then. I know that might shock y'all because I come off so perfect, but I was not the nicest person way back then. And I think that was a learning curve to wake me up and give me some sort of idea of what was to come. And then fast forward to 3 years ago of a doctor sitting down and telling me that I had a cancerous tumor in my body. So it things like this, especially now that you get older, I just entered my 50s. As you get older, things start happening. You need a stronger prescription for your glasses. You start feeling the aches and pains of the long night before. Your shoulder hurts or what have you. But I think these are mile markers in life. My spouse talks about this sometimes. We're all on different mile markers. We're just trying to get to the finish line. And if there is a heaven, I want to be there. What is your definition of heaven? I guess is what I should be asking right now to the listeners. This, after all, is your show. What do you think heaven is? And do you believe you'll go there? And do you think we are talking out of our heads right now? Do you think death is the end? A lot of people say, well, you're a gay guy. How can you be a Christian? I most certainly can be a Christian because God does not make junk or mistakes. If my God is perfect, then I'm going to his heaven. And that's how I have figured out my adult life. I was very suicidal about being feminine and gay for years and years and years and years. But I finally decided if my God really is perfect, because that's what I'm telling everybody, I need to also think, well, then that means he does not make junk. I'm getting some idea. Okay, so some topics here, comments. Okay, well done. I believe in heaven for sure. Agreed. Well, thank you. If you guys are liking the episode so far, we're just a tiny little podcast outside Nashville. If you feel comfortable to like, share, and follow right now on your social media so we can get more people listening live and possibly joining the conversation, I would love that. Do you believe in the little girl getting back to my story, a little girl, coded out. The doctor said she was clinically dead. She said she went to heaven and met Jesus Christ. And when she came back, I believe she was 6. And she said, I met a man and he said everything was okay, but I had to come back to y'all. So he sent me back here. And that's why I got better. And then she started drawing a man who many people say looks like a lot of the art of Jesus Christ. And her artwork is absolutely beautiful. And you can look up the story online and see her artwork, but it is absolutely beautiful. And she says, I met Jesus and this is what he looks like. And she's gone on to greater things in her field of art. But I think it's really, really, really important to start asking some of these questions, because obviously we are here for a reason. What kind of reason it is? Well, only the maker of the universe knows that. I was going through some things because this show was going to be much later down the line, and moved it up just because I wasn't really feeling the topic for tonight. And also because our friend is in hospice, I decided to just move it up and let's talk it out. I found something online. It says, whether heaven is a destination, a dimension, a dream, or a metaphor, the longing behind it is undeniably real. And that longing has built cathedrals, and it's inspired kindness. It's justified wars, and it's comforted the dying. And it's made a lot of poets very busy. I would agree with that. The cosmos remain suspiciously silent on this matter, yet it did produce you, a temporary arrangement of stardust wandering about eternity. That right there is either tragic, beautiful, hilarious, or all three of those things at once. I have always said that I have to believe in something bigger. I have to believe in God, otherwise I would lose what little mind I have. People have asked me in the past, well, what if you would have died of cancer? Do you think you would have gone to heaven, or do you think there's a part 2, as I call it sometimes? Because I think saying I want to go to heaven makes some people uncomfortable. So sometimes I just say, what do y'all think about part 2? Do you think a part 2 is going to happen? And do you think you deserve a part 2? And I will say this. I think in many ways it is a comfort. You know, our minds are just so huge on ideas and theory and thought. Why wouldn't we conceive the idea of a part 2? Because an end means an end. Derek up in Ohio says, I believe heaven is many things. Meeting God face to face, reuniting with loved ones that have passed on. Yes, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Derek. I love your definition of what part 2 is all about. You know, I've shared this before. I'm not sure if I shared this on the radio or if I shared it here on the podcast, but I've shared before the fact that when my great-grandmother was days away from transitioning, she started seeing people that had passed away in our family. And what made it so interesting is because she was answering questions. And it kind of went like this. She would nod and look and listen over our heads to another part of the room. And she would look over at us and say, I'm seeing things that I don't understand, but it's people that have passed away and they're here in the room. They're smiling and waving at me, and they're starting to ask me questions and talk to me. And so it still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And so we asked, well, what are they asking? And she said, if I'm ready. You know, that's the one thing that I remember, is that she was asked, are you ready? And she was in her 80s. But she would have full conversations, and it was kind of like, oh yes, yeah, they're all here. Do I want to go with you? I guess so. I guess I'm ready. Why do you look so good? You don't look ill anymore. You know, we had one cousin, a great cousin. that had lost a limb. And my great-grandmother said she was standing at the foot of her bed and she had her limb back. I can't remember because I was a kid, but I don't know if it was an arm or a leg, but she said, "Hey, you look great. You're not sick anymore. And where's your cane? Oh, you don't need a cane. Your leg is back." And so it really, at a young age, it made me think, okay, something is going on right now, very magical and spiritual in this room. But I was so young, I didn't really know how to put it all together. Some people have premonitions. I don't know about y'all, but I've heard about several things. Y'all know that I'm a big Patsy Cline fan, and I know her daughter Julie, and I've been always very pro Patsy Cline, and I've did a bunch of shows on the radio station, and then I've done shows here, episodes on the podcast about her. I'm a big-time collector. Patsy Cline had a vision. She was in a really bad car crash. A lot of people think Patsy Cline died in a car crash. She died in a plane crash a year and a half later. But she was in a really bad car crash, and she told several friends, I think Jesus came into my room last night. He sat on the foot of my bed, and he said, "I'm not going to take you right now because there is more for you to do." And that's why I think she was able to leave such a beautiful diary of recorded music as a recording artist, because she had that year and a half to fulfill her dreams and become a so-called star and be extremely popular and profit with the industry that she was in. But she stated she saw Jesus walk into her hospital room and tell her, "You're going to get better, you're going to get through this, and I'm not going to take you yet." But then, after she was better and touring and had a string of hits, she started telling people, "Hey, if anything happens to me, I've always felt like I'm going to die young. If something happens to me, will you go to my children?" And she was telling this to everybody. Her famous line was, "I won't see 30. She saw 30, but it was only for a few months. And that's when, she passed in March of 1963 in a plane crash. It makes you wonder, do people know that they are on a shortened visit? What do you think of that? If anyone wants to phone in or go live here in the chat room, we're talking tonight about, do you think heaven is real? Because guess what, guys? We are all dying. We are all actively dying right now. You start dying the moment you are born. So we're all going to get to this place. Betty White, the famous comedy actress, she said her mother, after a funeral or a wake, she would go, "Well, they now know the secret." And Betty White would say, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, they know about the other side. They know the secret now. And we're all going to find out." Some people talk about an extended existence of consciousness, where you are perhaps a droplet that has sprayed out of a moving creek, a body of water. And when your spirit comes back to the river and that droplet is falling back into the greater consciousness of what all of this is, you have all knowledge, all knowing, all understanding. And there's not any suffering and there's no sickness, and it's all the greater good. What do you guys think? There's a quote that I found earlier. It says, "If by saying heaven is real, you mean a state of consciousness, whether it be peace, unity, freedom from suffering, then things get really interesting. Humans can experience states that feel like they are transcendent, and deep meditation, mystical experiences, certain forgive me, I can't say that word, certain neuro events in your brain, even the tiniest speck of a inkling that there is what I call a part two. The brain imaging shows that these states correspond to real patterns of activity in your brain. And in that sense, a heavenly experience is absolutely real because it was real in your brain, right? And if you don't prove the destination now, the destination will prove itself eventually. Like I said, we're all actively dying right now. It just, some people are going to get 30 years and some are going to get 90 years. I have a few comments here that I want to get to because I don't want to miss out on people that are actively on the live. So let me get to some of these now. It said, my grandmother went through the same thing, and I believe that there's another part to our existence. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for sending that in. Derek in Ohio says, I had a dream 3 years ago before my grandmother passed. My grandfather visited in this dream, and he had been gone 5 years. And in the visit, he looked exactly as he did when he was completely healthy. Wow. And he goes on to state, my grandmother on my dad's side always looked exactly like, my grandmother on my dad's side always looked exactly as she did when she was fully healthy when she visits in my dreams. That's so interesting. Is it science? Is it neutrons? Is it atoms? What is producing that so vividly in our dreams? And if you want to go even deeper into the mystic cosmos, quite possibly they are visiting us in our dreams. And some people are going to say, well, I don't think that's real. And I think you're talking out of your head because death is death and I don't believe in a part two. If that's what gives you comfort, then that's what I want you to just keep walking with. For me, I need to say there's a part two because what is the point of being here for doing the job, doing the work, getting the paycheck and paying the bills over and over and over again until your body fails? What would be the point of being here? I truly believe, guys, that there is a part two. I really, really do. I've come to peace with my beliefs on this, especially after the whole cancer thing, because, and I call it a cancer scare. I didn't go through what most guys go through. You know, most guys that get testicular cancer, it's too late. It's already spread into their lungs and it travels up to your lymph nodes and into your brain. And most guys have to do radiation and chemotherapy, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't have to do any of that. I'm one of the lucky ones. And so as soon as they found it extremely early, they cut it out of me and it did not resurface. It's gone. And so I find myself to be extremely lucky. But when you're laying there in the bed, bandaged up with, a hole in the side of your body, you start thinking about things. You start thinking, well, gosh, maybe I should get a will, or maybe I should get a trust, or I'm so glad I bought that urn. And does my spouse really know what I want? If this thing comes back, or if this thing takes me out, you start thinking about things. And I've decided and concluded that SayCo believes in heaven. And I'm not saying it's golden, roads and gates of pearls and I'm not going down that because I try not to discuss a lot of my personal beliefs on the show, but I will say that I personally believe that there's a part two to all of this, and it brings me comfort, just like the paragraph I just read to you from, it was a footnote from an author that talks about death. It brings me comfort, and I think as human beings, that's what we long for. We long to be loved, and we long for comfort, especially about our demise, wouldn't you say? Derek goes on to say, I think our health is restored when we reach heaven. Isn't that a nice, comforting idea? That once you leave, you have a glorified, brand new, healthy being, spirit, shell, whatever you want to call it. I completely agree with you. And I think that's very beautiful to even bring up. I think that's really something to ponder on. Anyway, we have a couple more comments here and I want to get to them. JJ69 says, I don't believe in God, but you're bringing up some good topics. Okay, that's fair. That's pretty good. I know a lot of my listeners are not Christians or not believers, and that's okay. This is a safe place for all. Whatever gets you through the day, because this world is so ugly and it's hard, I want you to know that this is a safe place and you are loved here. As a child, I often thought, I wonder if it's true about floating on the clouds and holding the harp. And I wonder if that's true and if I will go to heaven. Do y'all ever remember doing that as a child? I would climb up on my grandmother's roof and I would lay there for hours watching the clouds and the airplanes going by. And I would think about things like this. I would think, I wonder if there is a heaven and why can't I see God? And why doesn't he answer me back? But again, the question tonight is, we're talking about, do you think heaven is real? And as you can see by some of the comments here in the chat room and by people texting our line, which is 615-805-4363, I believe that this will always be the greatest secret of all. What do you think of the people that have left their bodies momentarily because of an accident? And then they come back and they all say the same thing. There was a bright light. There was a tunnel. I was drawn to it. It felt so good. I didn't want to come back. They were waiting for me. How many times have you heard that story? That people left and when they come back in their conscience, they say, I saw my family and they were waiting for me. One lady is quoted as saying, I saw all my pets, that her dogs and cats ran towards her. Is this something that happens in our brain at the moment when we are deprived of oxygen? I don't know. But I think it's something actually just as beautiful as anything you can really bring up or talk about. I have a little more to read to you tonight that I found online because I believe in research, not only my own journey and my own thoughts, but I like to find other things as well. And I asked a couple of AI models, do you think heaven is real? And this is what I got out of some of this. One app said, heaven, that's interesting. That depends on what you mean by heaven and on what you count as evidence for something being real. If by heaven you mean a literal physical place where consciousness continues after death, then you might be disappointed because, the science part of it has not found any measurable evidence of such a realm. That makes you really think, right? Because that's usually what a lot of people will say. Well, from a scientific standpoint, that hypothesis is unconfirmed. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Our friend that is going to be 88, she's decided she just does not want to eat or drink or take her medicine. And she has stated to her life partner, I'm tired, I'm done, and I want to go. What brings you to the point of making such a choice? What brings you to a point of saying, I'm okay to leave and I know I will never come back? Is it the idea that she believes people are waiting for her on the other side? Or that we will all see each other again on the other side? It makes you wonder. It makes you think. Like I said at the beginning of the show, tonight's topic was going to be different. And I just couldn't get it together. And, going through someone close and and trying to help them on many different levels for their ending journey. It just makes life kind of get a little slower, and it makes you kind of scratch your head and think, what if this were me? What if I was sitting in hospice right now? Years ago, before we bought this house, we lived on the other side of town, and we had a neighbor, and we started noticing that she was just knocking on the door all the time. Hey, do you want this? And she would offer things and say, I don't want it anymore. And we would say, but why? It's such a beautiful piece. Or why are you getting rid of your things? And she said, I just think I'm not going to be here much longer. And I would prefer it to go to people that I know instead of taking it to a thrift store as a donation. So my family doesn't want it. Do you want it? If not, I'm donating it today. It's going in my trunk right now, and it's going to be donated to a stranger instead. I don't want to throw all this out. And so she gave me a vintage record player and very highly collectible records from the 40s and 50s. And we thanked her for the pretty little things she gave us. She gave us some furniture and whatnot. And she just kind of made up her mind. She kind of knew. She had an inkling, a premonition, whatever you want to call it. I'm leaving soon, and I want to make it easier on one of my daughters to come and clean out my townhouse. So she got to a place where her pretty things, you guys know how materialistic I am. She got to a place where she knew she can't take it with her. And I mean, this is a lady that was completely 100% in her head, had her health to still drive around town, pay her bills, live alone, take care of herself. Her husband had already passed. And she was kind of preparing. She was cleaning house in a way, cleaning up her life. And she offered things to us because she cared for us. We cared about her too. Sometimes she would cook for us. And when she was in hospice, she asked for us to come and see her and say goodbye. And when we walked in, she said, I'm so glad y'all came. She said, you guys know me better than anyone because all my family's far and I'm not close to some of my children and whatnot. She said, I'm so glad you're here. They're telling me I'm dying, and that's why I'm in hospice. And we said, well, are you okay with this? How are you feeling? And she said, oh, I'm perfectly ready to go. And she had such a peaceful expression on her face. And she gave us some things that we keep outside in the garden, some porcelain little figurines and whatnot. And whenever we see those things, we think of her. Whenever we think of our last place that we used to live at, and she lived next door, we think of her. And she was very determined the last few points of her life to just kind of clean out her house and move on. And that's how our friend is now, that has been in our life for about 3.5 years. She is ready. And she stated that. She's been stating it in and out of the hospital and whatnot. I'm tired and I'm ready and I'd like to go. And she's doing it on her own terms, and I think that's beautiful. Some other people would say, well, you need to fight. You sit up and you eat and you need to fight, and we're going to get this medicine down your throat. And it's just kind of to the point where she has just said, look, I'm going to be 88 and I want to go. And what makes me want to talk about this tonight on this episode is, where is she finding the peace and understanding to say, I'm ready to die? It's mind-boggling. Even though I had testicular cancer, I guess I was ready at the time, but it makes you think. And none of us tonight on this show or any other show or any part of our life can really state for sure what is to come. But I do know this, out of everything, about all the questions I've brought up tonight, all the ideas, I know one thing: we are all going to die. And this is something that I ponder on sometimes. When I was really young, in my teens through high school, some of college, I was extremely suicidal because I knew I was losing family, and they didn't like the fact that I was so feminine and so queer. And so I was really, really contemplating taking my life. And one day I was kind of I don't know, taken back by one of my friend's comments. And I was working with him, and he said, "Why do your eyes look so sad?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean." And he said, "What are you carrying? What's wrong?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just going through a lot of personal things and family things." And he said, "May I ask, are you out of the closet? Are you gay? Are you bi? What's your story?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm gay, and that's probably why I'm losing my family and whatnot." And he said, "What's stopping you from living a happy life?" And I said, "Well, I was brought up very religious, and they don't want any part of this. They think it's so strange and evil, etc., etc." And he said, "Well, let me ask you something. Since you're saying you were raised so Christian-like and so religious, is your God perfect?" And that's when my life changed. It was one question from just a coworker, not an extremely close friend, but just a coworker. And he asked me, "Is your God perfect?" And I said, "Is God perfect?" He said, "I'm not talking about my God or anyone else's God. I'm talking about your God, the way you live and walk your life. Is your creator of the universe perfect?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Then he made you the way you are. He does not make junk or mistakes. He made you that way. So you're supposed to be here, and he chose to send you here. So just embrace the journey." And that's what I've tried to do, guys, all these years. Who would have thought I would have gotten to 51 as a very, very queer, brown, gay person? But because the last few weeks have been tough, and contemplating our friend's close walk with the end, it made me start wondering perhaps this would be a really good episode to open your minds and eyes and hearts about what you want your journey on Earth to be. And none of us know the measure of our life. One of us could be gone tomorrow. And so are you living your life truly real to yourself today? I guess that's my question. I want you to look in your mirror, and I want you to say, am I happy? Why am I not happy? Yes, I am happy. And what am I going to do about it? Life is so short. We are not promised anything. A lot of us go, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do about money when I'm young, when I'm old, and I don't have any children?" Michael and I think of this often. We have no children. Well, what if we do get elderly and we have no one to help us and take care of us? It's something that we ponder on. But we don't even know if either one of us is going to make it to elderly years of 70s and 80s and 90s. We don't even know if that's going to be. And so I try not to look too far ahead. The whole testicular cancer thing taught me I must be in the moment today. I am here right now today. And I'm going to try to make it the best day I can, whether it's on that airplane at work or if it's here in my home surrounded by all the things that I love. I always remembered a quote, it just popped in my head, of JFK Jr. when his mother Jackie passed away. They said, "Well, were you there with her?" And he went, "Yes, everyone that she wanted to be there was there, close, surrounding her bed. And she was also surrounded by all of her favorite things." My mother had lots of favorite things that were kind of markers in her life. And we also had all that around us as well. All of her favorite things, because she loved those things that were special to her. And just like that, she left. And I've always remembered that. A lot of people say, "Why do you collect so much? And why do you have so much in your house? And you guys are setting up different china patterns all the time on your table." Well, guys, this is my today. I want to be surrounded by everything that makes me smile. And, my job is dangerous. I know we can all get killed by a bus tomorrow. But I work on an airplane. And I just want to take in, especially this last 3 years, because I think they're bonus years after they cut out the cancerous tumor. These bonus years have been such an eye-opener to who I am, what I am, and trying to be as authentic as I can. And we don't know the measure of our life. And I don't want anyone to be mad at me, and I don't want anyone to be disappointed in me. But whether they are or not, I need to be ready for my end. And that's what I guess I wanted to talk about tonight. You know, some of you are not going to listen to this live, but you're going to listen to it later. I have a friend of mine that's a trucker, and he listens to my episodes in the middle of the night when he's trying to stay awake on the roads. So my question is this. Are you happy right now in your life? And if not, what choices are you going to make yourself happy? And like my spouse is always saying, we're all at different mile markers. We're all trying to get to the ultimate prize at the end, where it will be fulfillment and contentment and heaven, or whatever you want to call it. The greater consciousness, where we will all be in peace and unity together. And that's what I want for myself. I know there's a lot of you right now that are in bad relationships. Lord knows I was. Before my spouse came along, I was in a really bad, mentally abusive relationship for a few years. And I used to cry at night and pray and say, God, if you're there, if you're real, please, please, please send me someone that will get me for me, where I could be the real me 24/7. And it happened. I feel so lucky that it happened to me. My spouse and I had been living together for 23 years. When it finally passed that they believed in our kind of love in 2015, we went down to the courthouse and did it up good. And we're proud of our relationship, but my relationship does not define me. You know, we're both extremely independent. I'm gone half the week. And so we kind of have to still walk as an individual. And I want my individual journey to be just as good as my marriage. And I want to get to the end of the line saying, I am content and I'm ready to go. Whether it's bad news from a doctor or what have you. I want to get to the place where I know I'm ready to go to part 2. And I believe there's a part 2. And if there isn't, well, darn. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. I'll be dead, right? Who am I going to complain to if there's not a part 2? But I think it's comforting, and I think that's what humans want. You know, we bounced around the cosmos until the rocks finally landed here. And we were created to be here. And I think your journey should be peaceful. I know there are some people that are dealing with some addictions that are listening tonight, and I know there are people that are sick with cancer tonight, HIV, AIDS, etc. Whatever your hard suitcase that you're carrying around is, whether it's something that you're doing to yourself or it's something that was brought onto you, I just want you to know that I believe in you. All you youngins, you young boys that are listening somehow, some way, and you're thinking, I want to kill myself because I don't want to be gay. I won't be loved by my family. I want to tell you, it gets better. It gets better. You can live partnered and married, and it gets better. And you, as you grow up, will begin to value life. I was extremely suicidal for years and years and years. And look at me now. I have a great spouse, a great job, a roof over my head, food on the table, and working on all my little collections at all times. And I'm talking to y'all, which makes me happy. You know, I've always said we will continue to discuss all things queer on this show because I think it's important to share my platform, my journey, etc. as a queer feminine man. But on the other part, I want to flip it and put it on you tonight. Make yourself happy. Go and find your peace somehow, some way. Whether that's reaching out to a counselor, a teacher, a pastor, or a therapist. I want you to be ready so when it is time for you to go, that it will be a beautiful, peaceful transition. Derek says, that's so beautiful. I'm glad he was there for you. Yeah, I'm glad he was there for me too. And to be quite honest, I don't know if his name was Calvin. I don't know if Calvin knows what kind of line in the sand he drew for me that day. He really, in a way, saved my life or saved my happiness in a way. And he let me reflect on what was going on with how I viewed myself at the time. And he let me know that there is strength with time and healing and therapy, etc., etc. And is my life perfect? No, but I really am at a greater, better place than what I was. But again, I want to honor my friend tonight. And I know some of you are maybe listening to this in a hospital on your iPods, and you're thinking, how am I going to get through this? My loved one is dying. I want you to start asking those hard questions. Get some answers. Ask them if there's anything that they need as far as an ending or a goodbye or some sort of phone call that needs to be made, or ask them if they can to write a letter. Let them leave as peacefully as possible. I don't know about y'all, but I believe in heaven. I want to get there. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to be floating on a cloud like tonight's show poster holding a harp. They might have me out on the back 40 of the heavens mowing the yards. I'm not sure. But I want to get there. And I want this journey to be as pleasant as possible. And maybe that should have been the question tonight. Maybe not so much death and is heaven real, but is your life in happiness right now? I want you to find your bliss. And I motivate you to start asking questions. Ask questions to yourself in the car, in the shower, in the bathroom, in the mirror. I want you to start figuring out how you're going to make your life as special as possible while you're on this life journey. Because guys, I'm telling you now, it is not going to last forever. Those of you in your 20s right now, I want you to have all the fun now. Because pretty soon you're going to be like me. I'm in my 50s now. And I'm getting to the point where we're starting to think about wills and trusts and enjoying our final years, It would be great to get to my 80s, but if I don't, that's okay. I just want my daily journey, where I am right now in the moment, to be as blissful as possible. And if that means separating yourself from certain people or certain ideas, or whatever else that you're into right now, then I want you to do your best to get that done. And you all know that I love you. Derek says, there has to be a runway for you to sashay down as you enter heaven. Well, my joke has always been lately, I'm married to a preacher, and so I must be a VIP, right? So maybe I don't need to try as hard, because I'll just go on up to the VIP section and say, listen, my husband worked for y'all. So here I come. I want you to go out, buckle up, be safe, and come back real soon. I don't know if we're going to do a part 2 on this, but I want to remind you that, let me get the dates right here. March 3rd, we are doing another Patsy Cline memorial tribute, and we're going to have a Patsy Cline fan club charter member and collector, Jimmy Walker of Kentucky, and that will be on Tuesday, March 3rd. All of our shows are on Tuesday nights, live 7 Central, right here exclusively on Podbean. And then a few days later, you guys are going to get a double dose. We will be doing a religious program live Saturday night on the 7th. And we'll be discussing the journey and life of Reverend Bill Carey. For those of you that are not religious or believers, the reason why I'm doing the show on a Saturday is because I don't want to mess up what we have going on Tuesday nights. So just so you know, one of my very first religious episodes will be coming up on March 7th. For those of you that don't know, you can Google him. He's written so many books. He's an extremely educated, profound speaker. But Reverend William Carey was one of the founding members of the Affirming Apostolic Church and founded several ministries and really did some major scholar work in Hebrew and Greek, etc., finding answers for the queers around the world of how it correlates with the Bible and being a queer Christian. So it's going to be a very interesting topic. Even if you're not religious, it would still be good. I mean, the Bible's a book and it's part of history, right? And so if you want to join us on a very special night, I would really ask you to please join us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I was just going through some of the questions I'm going to ask him and reviewing his book on Christian homosexuality. And it really will open your eyes to some things. And I was so excited when he said he would be on the show. So we're going to do that coming up soon too. I will see you guys next Tuesday night, live 7 Central, right here, same place. I so appreciate everyone that's here in the live Podbean chat room. Cody, Derek, Hume, and Todd, my buddy up in Canada. I so appreciate you guys. Everyone else that's listening right now live, I appreciate you as well. Don't forget to go over to where you find your apps and download the Podbean app so you can listen next Tuesday night in the chat room. I post often pictures and extra stuff in the chat room of the live podcast. And I want you to be fully immersed in what we're trying to do here. And those of you that are allies, I so appreciate y'all as well. You guys continue to motivate me because you're letting me know that even though you're not queer, you still have a heart and that accepts all. And so I appreciate that. And I know you all are listening. A lot of you ask me questions about, well, what do? I think my son is gay, etc. I just want you to know I'm here for you. My international listeners, my gosh, incredible. Everyone listening from the UK and Iceland and Denmark and everybody, I so appreciate you. Canada has always been strong listeners as well. And so I appreciate y'all ever so much. Again, this is being recorded live on an Electro Voice. My microphone is number 630, and I hope you guys have been able to hear me well. I'm going to be uploading this episode in about 5 to 10 minutes. So if you are just joining us and you missed it, just go back and look for episode 307. Go out, buckle up, be safe, and come back and see us again soon, right here.